All right, what's happening?
What's
More
going on?
Wrestling Live. We are back with another amazing wrestling mind in our country, another wrestling coach, and this one from my home state of Florida. He is the head coach at Springstead High School, where he was also a graduate there. Uh, he's been involved in the program as a wrestler or a coach since God knows when, early 90s. Uh, the program has 3 state titles and multiple top finishers. He also fought for our country as a United States Marine. So God bless you. Thank you for that. He's with us, Coach Mike LaRocca. Is that how you say it, or LaRocca?
LaRocca. Yeah.
Mike LaRocca. I figured I'd fuck that up. All right.
All right.
Anyway, what's up, man? Welcome to the show, man. I'm so happy I finally got you. I had your boy House on. He's going up to Soto to kick some ass. You must be proud of him.
No, I am. I am. He's a great kid. He's one that realized he's got to listen. He had a lot of potential, and he was just very reluctant to want to buy into what we were doing. And I think his junior into his senior year, he finally was like, "All right, I'm going to listen," and it showed on the mat this year. And I think him going up with Soto is just going to make him even better. I mean, he's what you would call he's still kind of a neophyte in the sport because he's only really started his freshman year and he really didn't buy in until his junior year, and had a full on summer and stuff. Cause, I try to get these kids in, try year round, but he was one of the ones that wrestled during the season. And then all of a sudden summertime comes and I'm like, "Hey man, where are you at? Where are you at?"
Well, he showed up and he did his thing, right? And yeah, nothing better to go up with a guy that knows your home, knows where you're from, can really relate with your program. So a lot of good things. I know that not only are you the Springstead High School coach, but you're also a coach at the Springstead Club.
Yeah.
Uh, so obviously, with COVID coming in, it looks like we're slowly coming out the other side of this. We'll see what happens down the road. But what kind of effect has it had on your life, your kids, your wrestling this summer, this off season, and what have
So,
you done to kind of keep the kids' minds ready?
I mean, first thing, I don't know. I mean, the whole COVID thing has got me just flustered because, I mean, prior to this, I was working for Honeywell and, come January, maybe we had a couple people who had got the flu early on, but we got it out of the room fast, and I'm, like, "Hey, stop drinking out of everybody's drinks. Make sure we're taking some vitamin C, get some Zicam in you." So we were completely healthy coming into the second half of the season. And, I flew to New York, DC for work for 5 days, city of Austin for, 7 days for work. Miami flew down there for 3 days, drove to probably about 10 different counties for work. And then you're in a gymnasium every weekend from them to the States. You got over 5,000 people at States and nobody got sick. I didn't get sick. I didn't hear anybody on any of the, wrestling web pages getting sick. So, and I'm not making plate that it's not bad, but I'm just like, it's one of those things where it's over consuming. And, yes, it's like, how do I keep my wrestlers focused in what we're doing? So, I'm at the mercy of the school district. And right now, the phase that we're in, you can, I could do some shadow wrestling, I could do conditioning, I can lift weights, but we can't full on wrestle. And thank God with the community sport that we have, Burgess MMA, a good friend of mine, has allowed us to use his room. So under the guise of our club, which is, so we have Springstead Wrestling, which is the high school, and then there's Spring Hill Wrestling Club. And Louis Katrubis actually is the head coach for that. He is the patriarch. He's the man when it comes to my little kids. Like I don't know what we would do without him, but I've got a great staff with me. Craig Corbett has come on last year. He's really kind of refocused me a little bit because sometimes, when you're coaching for so long, you kind of get a little miscombobulated. And he's really kind of like ironed some things back out. Everything that we've still done, but in more of a structured way. And then I've got, my side guy, Joe Gallo, who's been with us. He's been with me since day one, since I took over as the head coach, which has been great. And he's a fellow Marine too that moved into the area after he had taken a medical discharge, and he's got his brood of kids that we got 4 Gallo boys coming through the ranks and stuff like that. With Corbett, he's got his 3 boys. So you'll hear the name Corbett and Gallo for a long time in the state of Florida.
That's awesome. And I mean, you guys, you're over on the west coast there of Florida, right? So
Yeah, West Coast. We're about 40 minutes north of Tampa. We're
yeah, I
right.
mean, you guys have between Mark Prince, Avramitis, Connor Beebe, the guys up at the Mafia. I mean, you definitely have some great wrestling going on out there, and definitely I know with Prince opening up that big 2,500 square foot facility, man, he came on the show and said that it's welcome. He welcomes the local schools to come down.
Yeah, I actually talked to him yesterday. We're gonna do a dual meet. We're gonna get a couple teams to come on in there. We were talking about, especially kind of it's during football season and you lose some kids and this and that. So we're gonna get creative with some weight classes. We'll probably do block weights. We want to get these kids mat time. And that's the biggest thing is just, luckily, like I said, I'm over at Burgess MMA. So we're there 3 days a week. And we're just, and we I welcome kids from other clubs that want to come in. They're in the area. They want to train. I'm not one of those coaches that is like, no, I don't want you in here. I don't want you figuring out what we're doing. Listen, kids are going to be kids. I want my kids to go out. I want them to experience different coaching techniques, come back into us, learn some stuff. But it's nice that, I know a lot of the coaches, I know Walker over at Lake Gibson, he's trying to find a big facility that he can move some mats over into so he can train. And I would love that because, the place I have, I'd love to be like, hey, come on over, but he's got such a brood. I mean, it'd be too busy, but it's nice. So I think the coaches are just all trying to get places that we can go and, kind of get some mat time, get practices in our own facilities, just keep these guys up to par because, we don't know what's going to happen. Are we going to have a season? Are we not going to have a season? I know Saturday we're all going down to Celebration High School and all the coaches are all going to be meeting up there and we're going to have an open forum as if the FHSA needs some guidelines like, okay, hey, you got the best coaches in the state meeting up and we're going to talk about what we could do possibly. And if the FHSA says no, then how could we, have a season without being under the guidelines of FHSA? Do we all align with FAWA? Do we all align with AAU? Where are the facilities we're going to be able to host this? Because I know for me, until we're to go live at the school, I won't be able to use my gymnasium, my wrestling room, so on and so forth.
Well, what do you think of, first of all, Shane McCall said, shout out to Springstead. Don't sleep on that group. What's up, coach? They're coming up.
And Shane, before we stop, Shane is another guy that has come into the room. He's been educating himself in the sport a lot. His son, Draven, you're going to hear the name a lot, Draven McCall. The kid is a little beast. And he's one of those coaches. He's one of those guys that comes in. He's very intense and he's very cerebral. He wants to learn everything and how's everything going and this and that. So he's been a good addition.
Now, what I was going to ask is, now, are you still with us? You're frozen a little bit. You still there, coach? There you go. See you now. You're moving now. There we go.
Okay.
Now, you see what they did in Pennsylvania, right?
No, what they do?
I guess the governor, or I'd have to reread the article. I have it on my page where they said not only can you not wrestle high school wise through January 21st, you're not allowed to, I think it said you can't do any club tournaments, any outside of high school tournaments, any wrestling period as far as competition.
Oh, they pretty much nipped it in the bud right away.
Right. So what they did was so you can't even go and align with anybody else because it's not allowed in the state. And I know that right now there's a big petition being signed up there, just like we see the ones getting passed around with Florida.
I don't think the governor here, I don't think DeSantis is going to cut it. They're going to have, there's liabilities and stuff within the school systems and they're going to kind of, talk about that amongst themselves, but I don't think he's going to go as far as going after and basically quarantining or turning down any club programs in football, baseball, basketball. I don't think that's going to happen. I think
club practice, I think it said, can happen, just you can't have any. I think what you guys want is if FHSAA says no to high school wrestling, you guys want to be able to still create your own association and still have a season. But I think they're trying to stop that through January 1st or something up.
And I hate to be like the guy that says it, but it's comical, the date. It just so happens that it's going to be January 1st is kind of like all right, hey, let the new year begin. We just got done with the election and now like, oh, everything is back to normal. Like I don't want to be that guy, but it's
Listen, as strict as my wife is, she says to me, I hope the people that are skeptics are right. She says, I hope that the people that think it's a light switch and it's just the presidential election and it's just an
if
oversight.
if you actually sat there and publicized and basically over dramatized the flu and pneumonia statistics every year, we would actually shut down our country 6 months out of the year. And it's not, I'm not saying it's not bad, but people sometimes succumb to certain things. They don't know that they might have a compromised immune system, and it's been an underlying, facet of their body. But all of a sudden they get sick and they pass on. I mean, the comedian that had passed away from pneumonia. God, I can't think of his name right now. You've had people that have just passed away. Ralphie May. I mean, he died of what? The flu and pneumonia. He was morbidly obese. Those things happen. My grandfather died of the flu, but he had stage 3 Alzheimer's. So it's not that it's serious, but I don't think it's serious in the realm that we need to cut the country out, eliminate what's going on for these kids. I mean, these kids, seniors didn't have any proms. They didn't have any. I feel bad for spring sports. Those kids that are playing baseball, track. I had a good friend of mine. His son's about to go win a state title in weightlifting, coming back as the #1 kid at his weight class. Boom, done. And he's never going to be able to have that. And so the psychological factor of that sticks with some of these kids. So I don't know if sometimes we're making the best decisions for the kids. And I mean, as coaches, hey, we've got plenty of time. I can coach for the next 20, 30 years. But you tell my seniors this year that we can't have a senior. They're not coming back to wrestle. They don't have another 20 years to, come back and wrestle. So I think it's prudent upon our part to make sure that this actually happens for them. And we just take the hygienic steps to make sure that they're good to go. That's it. Clean your facilities, make sure the kids are hydrating, make sure people are taking vitamin C. You see signs. Like I always can tell when, like I said, when the flu's coming into my room, and I'm like, and I go out as a coach, I'll go out and I'll buy the extra bottles of Lysol because I know the school's not supplying it. And I come in early and I Lysol everything down. I'll Lysol their shoes. They don't even know I Lysol their shoes, and I'm Lysol down, I'm making sure that I'm watching them, like, don't drink out of this, don't drink out of that, make sure you're drinking your own stuff. So I just think we need to do better by the kids. I don't think the severity is that much to, ruin another, year of student activities, not only just, for athletics, but academics as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think I'm somewhere like in the middle. I think it is something that's happening, and I don't think that I don't want people to get it right. But I don't think I'm completely to the left or completely to the right. I think that
it's there.
I'm not gonna lie. I think the kids should. I feel like there should be wrestling. I feel like there should be a season. Especially, I understand with the high schools and stuff. I don't know with the college. I really understand where the college coaches are coming from more, because you're sending kids home that are adults. So these kids are safer, they're better off, they're well taken care of under the guidance of their coaching staff.
Oh, yeah.
On the college level. You send adults home at that age, they're not going to come home and sit in their house and watch TV. They're going to go out in the public. They're going to be more susceptible to it. They're going to be getting it. So, with high school, we can kind of still parent the kid. We can keep them home and have them do virtual learning. We can slowly step them back into the process. As high school coaches, you can start with, groups of 5, groups of 10. You can start to little by little open the room. But with on the college level, that's where I'm a little worried about some of the.
Especially with the college level. I mean, and you don't know what their family life is like. I mean, some of those kids, are coming from, bad neighborhoods, single mothers, this, and that. They don't have the nourishment that they're getting from the cafeterias that they have up in college. They're not getting the environment that they need. And yeah, it's better off. You might as well just keep them up there in a controlled atmosphere than, especially for football. You got, probably 90, 95 scholarship athletes, and then, another 40 walk-ons. You got 130 athletes. and boom, now they're going to separate. They're going to go to every different parts of the country. And then what happens when you say, okay, hey, we think it's safe, and now we come back and it's safe, but over in Florida, there was this kind of a strain of virus that this kid was used to, and there was this kid in New York that had a strain that was over there, and all of a sudden they come back and now they're cross-straining, and next thing you know, boom, you're going to get kids that are sick for the first few weeks. We used to call it when I went in the Marine Corps, it was the recruit crud, because we had kids from all over the country come in, and you got 110 kids in your platoon, and for the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, kids were getting sick. Why? Because what you were used to in Kentucky, you weren't used to in Florida. And if he had something, you know, he didn't really, you know, notice he had it, then this kid's sick. So
what happens at the beginning of the school year every year?
everybody gets sick.
Everybody gets sick because everybody comes back in. Everybody's been away. Everybody's immune system isn't ready yet. And everybody, I can't remember. This may be the first time because the kids are here doing school today, but this may be the first year that I can say I don't think they're going to get sick. So,
and this is what's going to drive me crazy is schools that are going to allow kids to go back to school and have a choice between virtual and going back, and then some kids getting sick. They're going to go, oh my God, see, we shouldn't have gone brick and mortar. These kids are getting sick. But then you're sitting there thinking, going, it happens every year. Kids get the cold, the flu, or whatever, because they've been away from each other all summer long. And now you're cramming 1,500 to 3,000 students back into one area. It's going to happen. So
yeah, I agree. Well, enough of that shit.
Yeah. I'm done with it.
Yeah, man. So listen, you've been at Springstead not only as a coach all these years, but you were there as a student, a wrestler. Yep. So talk about that program, what it's meant to you, what wrestling has meant for you in your life, and what you've done to continue to build that legendary program.
So I started up in '94. I had no clue what I was doing. Like I said, I was talking to you earlier. You know, I just went in there that summer. I had a bunch of buddies that their older brothers ran. £100, and I was like, yeah, no, learn this. So that they wind up, you know, you still got me.
A little bit. You're frozen, and you're talking like Darth Vader. There you are.
Oh. Okay, here. I don't know why my internet, and I'm direct connect too.
Are you? So, I've got mine plugged into the wall, but I don't know.
Yeah, mine's plugged to the wall, so we should be good to go for right now. Yeah. But anyway, like I said, so I started back in 94 to 90. You know, and I called myself, I was more of like the wrestler. You know, I was kind of part-time in it. It was good because I was athletic, but I wasn't great because I didn't give the effort that I did. But I did gain so much, you know, determination and drive that made me even better in football. Just for the simple fact, I mean, you know, you come out of wrestling practice and you go to spring football. I mean, you're running circles around everybody out there because you're in such condition. And it's just the mental toughness and the fortitude that you get. And that's one of the reasons why going through boot camp when I was in the Marine Corps wasn't that tough, because you already have that discipline, that mental fortitude that you've got to compete. Nobody's going to help you. You got to do it on your own. So, and, you know, when I got done with the Marine Corps and I finished up my degree up at Florida State and I moved back home, I was actually roofing for about 2 years, and then I got my first medical sales job. And Sal and Eric were in I believe their second year together with each other. And I would pop in the room when I could. And then I started realizing, like, you know, I think I could, you know, I really could do this. You know, I'm like, it's going to work with my work schedule. So at the time, you know, it was Eric and Sal were taking care of the varsity, and then myself and Harold Skidmore were taking care of the JV. And then Harold wound up leaving, and then we had James Tiedemann come on in to the program. But I mean, it just worked. And what works is I've always wanted to give back whatever knowledge I can, especially with my, you know, I'm a degree in health sciences, you know, helping these kids out with their nutrition, helping them out in the weight room, everything like that. And then, you know, I knew everything, but I didn't know everything. It's as funny as that sounds. And I would keep my eye on Sal, and I would keep my eye on Eric and see what they did on a regular basis. So I kind of knew what Eric and Sal wanted. So I built that building block up. It's kind of like, all right, I got the lump of that piece of coal, and I started shining it away to get that diamond coming out. And then when I knew they were ready, I would give it to Sal and Eric, and then they would really polish that bad boy up, ready to go to be at that state podium and that national level. And it worked really great. And one thing I could say, which is nice, is Sal and I are very OCD. So like transitioning over to the head coach wasn't that bad because like his office was immaculate, files were done, this was done. And I'm like, so it wasn't like you came into a cluster bomb. And one thing also too is Sal's a perfectionist. He's over time, there's no deviation from him. This is way, this way, this way, this way, this way. So, I mean, I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from both of them as well. So,
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I was going to ask you, what did it mean to kind of come up under those two guys? And, you know, I've read about Swenson. I know what Basile has done, and you got to get kind of you had that plugged into you for a while, right? And how?
it was nice because I knew Sal so I think Sal came back my junior year and he was an assistant coach, and it was funny because Sal and I remember when I was roofing, I was like, man, how the hell did Sal do it? Sal would roof during the day and he would come back and he would wrestle and he was the assistant and he would run moves and stuff like that, but he'd go full live with our 103 up to our like 135. And I'm thinking to myself I was like, after I got off the roof, I'm like, the last thing I wanted to do was be in a wrestling room. So just the intensity that he brought. And then it was nice because he kind of, after I think it was like 02, I think he stepped away from coaching a little bit. And then he came back, I think it was 04, 05 season when Swenson came in there. And then I came in that 06, 07 season. And it was just a great marriage. And what's nice, what I've always loved about our program is we'll take all knowledge from every aspect and we bring it in, and we have our base foundation. And then, okay, we saw something, we brought it in the room. If we like it, we keep it. If we don't, we put it on the shelf. We're ego free. Like we're never like, oh, that doesn't work, or, oh, this is, it's always like, hey, let's bring things in. And if it works, then great, we'll utilize it. If it doesn't, we'll put it here. And then there's some years, there's certain types of kids that you have. I mean, if we got brawlers, we're going to go more heavy hand fighting, club series, you got more finesse wrestlers, maybe we'll go no tie offense, stuff like that. So, that's what I've learned a lot from those guys, and bringing everything in. And then when you're going around the state, you're going around out of state, you pick up things here, you pick up things there, and you're like, hey, let's put it back over here. So it's always been an ego-free room.
Now, how tight is the club and the high school room? Is it a feeder?
Yes, it's a feeder. It's definitely a feeder for us. Unfortunately, though, with our school district, our zone being so tight, I feel like I've been feeding all the other high schools in Hernando County lately. I've got two kids that have been in my club for the past 4 years, and they're both going to Weeki Wachee. So it's like, come on, man. So, and it stinks because it's we used to be able to get them in through Air Force ROTC, but you can't do that. And so my thing is like, hey, do you have phenomenal grades? Because then you can get in as an IB student. So.
And then I read where you guys have two different levels. To make sure that one coach is focused on the beginner, young kids, going there, the intermediate and kind of experienced kids. You have another group.
Yeah. So we run the club on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and from 5:30 to 6:30, I have my really young kids or my really inexperienced kids. And then 6:30 to 8 is when we start bringing our intermediate up to the high school level. And then, we make a decision, a group decision, like when we should pass the kids off to the next level and stuff like that. I know a lot of parents get upset, like, every kid is different. We'll have a kid that comes in and they're 8 years old and you're like, wow, we're going to put him in the second group. And he's only been in the room for a month, but we just know they're tough enough and mentally they can handle getting beat up a little bit. And then there's sometimes, we'll have a kid that's been in the room for 2 years, and the parents are like, well, why can't we get to the, the 6:30 to 8 one? And it's just like, it's timing and they're not ready yet. Every
It's fun. I remember, so I was telling you how we had no idea what off-season wrestling was. And then we found it after the season. Well, we found it at CFWA, a local, you know what it is, but yeah. We found a local club here and that's what CFWA was. And little did we know what we walked into, right? But I remember putting him in the club and he wrestled for a few weeks and then they took him to Disney Duels because they had like 3 teams. So they had kind of a beginner team, and then they had their 2 teams that go in and do damage, right?
Yeah.
So I remember we come back from Disney Duels, and he moved Daniel over to the right side of the gym where the more the beginners are. And I remember him, Daniel came out of the room, and he's like, man, he moved me over to the little kids. Damn it. I go, well, shit. So prove him wrong. Like he's the coach, he must be doing it for a reason. And,
It's not, I equate it to this. It's like putting a kid in math class. I wouldn't put you in algebra 2 if you're not really good at algebra 1 yet.
Yeah.
Once
he worked his way back up, and then coach had him with everybody again. And, but obviously coaches know what they're doing. And obviously Palazzo did it for a reason. And I didn't know any better. I just told him, well, sucks for you. Go back and wrestle hard.
Well, because then, and you hate to say this, but if sometimes you put too young of a kid with more of an experienced kid, and Palazzo's running an advanced level technique session, and your kid's just not staying up, and now you have a bad practice partner. Now that kid who's the good kid is not getting anything out of his practice. So that's where it's like, okay, it's a break of, how do I run this practice? Do I run it very advanced or run it very young? That's the nice thing. I've got to say, over the years that I've been there with multiple coaches, and I give credit to any of the schools out there running with one coach, because it really is hard to sit there and say, hey, how do I justify a practice? And I got this group of kids that are studs, but I got these group of kids that are beginners. What level of practice do I run it? Because there's gonna be times where you gotta get those practices ramped up. And so I got to get my advanced kids better than what they are. But then all of a sudden my bad kids may be falling back. There might be 1 or 2 of them that step up to the challenge. So it's definitely difficult back and forth, like how you're going to establish that practice routine.
I know back at his schoolroom in the first academy, they don't have a big team right now. And Daniel came back a little more advanced, right, than a lot of the kids coming in. So there'd be times where Daniel would go with the coach just to, or the big heavyweight or whatever, just to kind of keep him going. But then he would get a little frustrated sometimes because coach would put him with, like one of the brothers that were in the room or whatever. There was 2 brothers that were track stars. And sometimes Daniel would get a little frustrated, but then as the year went on, he saw that kid was getting better because he was wrestling with Daniel. So now he started to understand, okay, that's why he keeps putting me with Jonathan. And Jonathan was getting better because of it. So it's just being a coach, you got to know where to stick your pawns and stick your bishops and stick everything.
And that's one thing too, is like, and you got to pull that kid that's an advanced kid to the side and tell them, like, listen, I know that you're a lot better than that kid. I don't want you to hold off, but I want you to take this as a way of like, hey, you better be drilling 100% accurate. I better not see anything, because this kid really can't even touch you. So I better make sure you're drilling 100% of the time, not that you're loafing off because, oh, I got this kid. And I think, it's nice when you have a good room, because like it says, iron sharpens iron, man. And those years that we were taking state titles and, we're running, top 3 on the podium, like you look at Lake Gibson right now. I mean, it's a war room in there. I mean, their backups are, better than most teams, starters right now. I mean, but that's a credit for kids buying into the program and staying around. What happens a lot of times too, and I've seen it too much, is you get a kid that, they come in the room. I've got 5 right now. They were so freshmen, but they were athletic. They don't know if they want to come back out again. That hurts you building a program, because you need those kids now to become from beginners to intermediate to advanced, and they don't know what they're going to do. So, when you sit there, like for your son and stuff like that, it's like, okay, those track stars that are now starting to get advanced, hopefully next year or mid-season, they're getting up to the level where your son's like, oh, I got to pick it up now because this kid's getting a lot better.
But it's great because you saw the camaraderie, and that's what I think one of the reasons why I fell in love with the sport is then you started seeing Daniel root for that kid, and be in the corner with the coaches and yelling for him to do stuff that they worked on, and you started to see him becoming.
That's one thing that I love about the wrestling community. It's a small community, and if I could sit there, and I talk with all the kids and everything like that. And if I can give a piece of advice, if I watched a match or something like that, it's like, hey man, you might want to try this, or you might want to do this, you know, and I've sent my kids to, over to different teams and they're wrestling there and their coaches. Hey man, I noticed this, you might want to be doing that. I think, synonymously in the state of Florida, I can speak for most of the coaches. I think we all just want to see our kids make it to the next level. We all want to win state titles. We all want to be nationally known. We all want that. But I think at the end of the day, our biggest thing is getting Florida wrestling out there and getting these kids in the colleges to wrestle.
Yeah, and I think one thing I didn't know anybody other than my kids' coaches at the First Academy and then my kids' coaches at CFWA.
Okay.
That was all I knew. And then I met some people through the AAU that we discovered last off season. But that was really all I had ever met. So I didn't know what anybody else believed or thought. I only knew what they thought. And I had my kids there and I kept them there because of the way they think and do things. I was proud of that. But talking to all these other coaches now, I mean, I think you're like number 47 Florida coach I've had on here. And I don't think I've had one of them say at all, like, hey, we hide our program underneath a bridge and nobody's allowed to come wrestle with us. Like that shit just doesn't happen. Like everybody, I mean, look at Mark Prince. He doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to go open a $2,500 square and offer it to everyone else. He could just take it for himself and train his own kids, right? But he's going out and saying, hey, come get involved. The Scorpions, come get involved. All those places, come get involved. BB Train and Avramitis opening up a place. And you said that the Lake Gibson coaches, Walker's looking for a place. And I see Top Gun all over the place doing stuff. And obviously CFWA's up here in Central Florida, but I've never heard one of these either club and clinician coaches or wrestling coaches say, no, we only take the people on our block. Like you guys, fuck you. No, it doesn't work that way. It's always been very super welcoming. And I think that's why I fell in love with the sport and felt like I wanted to give back because they welcomed me. And it taught me last off season. Like I would have never found CFWA. I would have never found the AAU circuit. I would have never found any of that if a parent didn't take me in and say, hey, here's what you need to do. Or if a coach didn't say, hey, try this. Or if Coach Rose and Wheel Dryer didn't say, hey, go look for tournaments off season.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known. I needed the guidance. And, some sports just like, okay, season's over. See you next season. Bye.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel like that would happen here.
I mean, especially for wrestling. I mean, like I said, majority of our kids are coming in at 14 years old and never wrestled a day in their life. So they really need to be in the room all year long almost, and then if I have my kids that are football players, or they're a dual sport or something like that, I'm like, okay, well, if it's football season, football's got you. But when it's wrestling season, you're mine. And if it's not football or wrestling, I get you 50% of the time. Luckily, our head football coach knows how tough our program is. So I always let the parents know, listen, if your kid's wrestling with me, you don't have to worry about doing their football workouts because Mike knows those kids are going to come in shape and they're going to be strong when they come in there.
And that's awesome. So first thing is Coach DeAugustino shouting you out. You the man coach, great points. I told you Shane McCall is shouting you out. He's back on here shouting out. I'm going to totally fuck this up. Catcher. Yeah, that guy, he said he's one of the best youth coaches around. He's really had a hand there. Rob Pancake, who has actually been my insurance guy for 21 years. I never even knew he was involved in wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
He found me like my second show. He's like, hey, I didn't know you did that. And then Coach DeAugustine said Dade City Wrestling is getting a place too. So
is Dade City? Okay, good. Yeah, I was pretty bummed when Mark stepped down from his coaching position, but I'm really pumped that he's going to be around the youth and still being around the sport as well.
Yeah, what a fun guy to talk to too. I got the pleasure of meeting him. He came on. I had his nephew on, and
he is I remember when he was a little pipsqueak, like high voice little kid running around wrestling tournaments. And then all of a sudden, like, man, he just came on like wildfire. He's a very explosive. I love watching the kid wrestle.
Yeah, I think I heard not directly from him. I talked to somebody involved in the Northwestern program, and usually when I have a college on or somebody involved in a college that I know there's a Florida kid at, I'll always try to shout out that Florida kid, like, hey, what do you think of our Florida kid? Hey, Augustine, Malik Hines, the Rivera, whatever that's coming in and to your program and doing big things. Cause I am Florida. So that's, that's
I
where
mean,
I started.
like, and that's the thing is you're every year you look at the NCAA's, more and more Florida kids are getting into the big tournament. You're going to start seeing those kids starting to place. I mean, I was at Lugo over at Iowa. I mean, I feel so bad for him. I mean, he was pretty much probably going to podium, take first, up there, and it gets stripped away from him. But, he's from a dominant South Dade program that I watched him from his freshman year up, and the kid just kept grinding and grinding and growing, and he's representing Florida, bringing it up over there, and then showing that South Dade style of how aggressive and just a brutal. I love the way he wrestled back in high school, and he brought it up into college. So you're going to start seeing that. I mean, it was easier to win a state title probably an individual 5 to 10 years ago. Actually, yeah, it's getting tougher and tougher now. Yeah, there's going to be the kids that are like, multiples that have been a little bit, wrestling since their youth. But I mean, overall, to sit there and start doing that now because there's so much youth wrestling coming up, and it's no more, not as much where you were 14 when you started, and you still do have a lot of that, but you're starting to get where it's not just the one school that's got the youth program. You've got multiple schools in the state of Florida now bringing this youth talent in, and it's getting tough. And I think the nation sees it because they've been cherry picking some of our best to go to all these prep schools out of the area.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the prep schools are cherry picking out of Florida. Now the big Division I colleges are like, oh, hey, let's go see what's down in Florida, and our kids are getting picked up.
And that's okay. Maybe that'll bring a D1 school here. So
I would love to see my alma mater put it on. I mean, the ACC has wrestling. So Florida State, if you can hear me out there, just suck it up and get a damn team.
Listen, I had somebody, who was it? Jared Frere.
Yeah.
He said, if the Canes and the Knowles create wrestling, I want to coach there because that is a rivalry. And could you imagine the ACC having that rivalry?
That would be great. I mean, it would be great, and I understand, Title IX and everything, but, but funding, how much would it really be to put on a Division I wrestling program? I mean, it's not like you're adding football or anything like that. It would actually be like almost, kind of a basketball team. We don't have that much in uniforms. We don't have that much in square footage, that we're going to be taking up. We got some mats, some singlets, and you got some scholarships and stuff like that. I don't see how you could kind of deter that from, happening. I mean, as strong as the sport is becoming in Florida, why not? Like, add it on there. Let's do this.
What's amazing to me too, and I would have never known this until I started this show, I've had so many coaches at every level around the country, at every college level around the country that came from our state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've got Florida kids and adults now out there, men and women coaching college programs. Mm-hmm. So if we're not that good, but we're good enough to hire to coach your team.
That's it. I mean, I remember when Scotty Sanchez was a freshman, at Riverdale. I mean, now he's a head wrestling coach. I mean, you're seeing that, Jared Frere was, I think I was a junior when he was a senior, and there he is, he's up at Virginia Tech. I mean, it'd be great to see a Florida boy come back down and take the Knowles on and be their head coach. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. And you got a great guy out there now doing the club coaching.
Yeah.
With them and FAMU, right? He does both of them.
Was that
the Florida State coach now that's out there doing the club?
I don't know who that is. It's funny. The club, Florida State's club, has always been like, like it depends on who's like the grad assistant and who's like, getting their master's and they're helping out.
Well, he seems like a good dude. Yeah, he's trying to really push for like a JUCO circuit in Florida, like in the California area, which would be, I guess that would be a great first step, right?
I think a JUCO would be great. It just depends on, how many small colleges are going to want to pick that up. And then, the kind of money that they're going to be able to bring in, to get kids from out of state. I mean, but we need to be able to fill up teams big time down here. But I think with the talent that we have in Florida, I think if we got a Division I program, we would be able to become very dominant very quick. And it wouldn't hurt recruiting wise too. You go up to Pennsylvania and bring a kid down over to Florida State and they're like, oh, wow, it's December and it's only 50 degrees outside and there's no snow on the ground. And they just left home and it's 8 degrees and there's like 2 foot of snow on there. They'd be like, this is beautiful, you know?
Yeah, it wouldn't be a hard. I mean, look how well the Carolinas do in recruiting.
Exactly. So.
That's awesome. You know, before we get into to my 10 questions, you spoke a little bit about how wrestling benefited you when you entered the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
But now vice versa, how has the Marine Corps benefited you in your coaching career now, coming back and coaching kids and doing what you do now as on an observation role instead of an experience role?
You know, it's kind of a no nonsense approach. I mean, you know, a lot of kids that you get today come and, you know, they're single parent, you become a dad. So it's basically, you know, you've taken on the role of coach, mentor, and father figure to them. But it's also, you know, the Marine Corps has developed a lot of confidence, a lot of, you know, organizational skills, a lot of different, you know, awarenesses of what's going on. You know, you don't want to be sitting there, you know, tunnel visioned and, you know, what you're doing. You got to have, you know, you want to be open to everything's going on. So when you got 30, 40, 50 kids in a room, you got to be understanding all these different personalities. You got to be understanding, you know, who's doing this, what might happen here. You know, you always get when the girlfriend is, you know, having hurtfilioma and you're like, oh, he's moody today because the girlfriend broke up with him. So the Marine Corps is kind of definitely established to be like, no nonsense. Like, hey, I got to slap you in order. I'm going to be your dad. I'm going to be your mentor and be your coach. But hey, we got a job that we've got to get done. And you got to relay that information back to them. You know, and I always joke with them. I sat there, I said, don't worry about me yelling at you. I said, the day I don't yell at you anymore, that's when you got to worry about it.
I like it. Yeah. I mean, I would think that doing that, I had a coach that's coaching down at Beach High, down in Miami Beach. And he said when he first got back from the Marine Corps and got in the room, it was very difficult for him to adjust to being a coach and not like a drill instructor, you know? Because,
I would have to say that. So I've had 2 of my former wrestlers that wrestled for me come back in the room, and one was Scott Warren, and Scott was great. He was a state runner-up for us. Should have taken a state title, but I had to reel him back a little bit. I'm like, these ain't boots, okay? You gotta reel back just a tad bit. And then he's like, yeah, but we were, and I'm like, yeah, but you were a different group. I sat there, and that's the thing is, as we've been growing as a society, I hate to say this, but I think some of our kids are becoming in softer and softer. So it's kind of like you got to hold them with kid gloves a little bit and get them to fall in love with it. And then you get to tear into their asses and make them into.
Can you imagine like you've got like 8-year-old kids and you're like 6 inches front to back, line up now.
See, now with our club, the second group, yeah, we get in there a little bit.
Yeah.
First group is we want you to learn how to do body function. Let's compartment some this and that. You know, like we're definitely not in them because we want them to have fun and we want them to buy in. And
you're online now, 8-year-old kids.
Now when they're bought in, then you really get into it.
Yeah. Can you imagine those little 8-year-olds would be like, I don't think I like this sport.
They're like, oh, damn, we lost another one to baseball.
Yeah. That's funny. All right, cool, man. Well, thanks for all that, man. Great information.
Hey, no problem.
All right, so we'll get into stuff that doesn't matter, but it's fun. Biggins or Jabot's barbecue?
Oh, Biggins or Jabot's? I'm Biggins barbecue.
I like it. Do you prefer live goes or clinics?
I think you need both. I think, you can go live goes from situational awarenesses. Somebody's in on a double, somebody's defending that double and blow the whistle and go like a good 15, 20 second spurt. It just depends on, when I'm coaching and especially after a weekend tournament and you see what the majority of kids are not doing right, you got to get on that right away on that Monday. And then, and then you get back into your routine and from there, but Monday's definitely your educational day. So I figure both on those.
Nice. Culver's or Five Guys?
Oh, Five Guys. But if I could get a Five Guys burger with McDonald's French fries, you got something going on there.
And a McDonald's Coke.
Yes, McDonald's Coke. Yes. Yeah.
I like it. Now,
My
do you
brother.
go back, do you go back to Five Guys to get the vinegar?
Yeah, you can put some malt vinegar on those McDonald's fries. Definitely. But my twin brother is pretty pissed off that McDonald's changed their orange soda. I guess they went to High C or whatever. And he's like,
Oh,
"Son of a bitch." He goes, "I loved it." He goes, "Why did you change this?"
yeah, my kids are like, McDonald's Sprite. But
uh,
yeah, so it's the summer. Do you tell kids stay in the club all summer, or do you tell kids go to camps all summer?
I tell the kid it depends on if they're ready for a club. Depends on what club it is. If it's a local club or it's like a smaller club, yeah. But when you're talking about going up to what's the one they had up in it's up in Minnesota. Oh, I can't even think of the name of the club. It just depends on the level of the club and the level of the kid. But yeah, I want my kids to go all over the place in the summertime.
Cool. Uh, PJ's or Mark Anthony's Pizza?
Oh, neither. Cipriano's.
Cipriano's. I almost wrote that down too. I was like, these two look like they're closer to his school. He probably walks to these. J Rob.
That's the tour. That's the club. Like
Augustine just shouted you out. Blaine Ice.
that was there out there. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, that's those ones that you get a parent that are like, should I send my kid there? And I'm like, no, not this one. But it's like, okay, yeah, now it's time for you to go. Especially, and that's Housel. Housel went to J Rob his junior year, going to his senior year, and he needed it. And he realized like what it took him to get to that next level. I knew physically, he wasn't still the best wrestler yet, but I knew physically and mentally he could handle it. And J Rob really kind of, you're around, a couple hundred kids. You're like, whoa, I'm not just competing in my room. I'm competing against, the country. I've got to step up my game.
He said that he was glad he was more matured when he went there. He said it to the kids out there listening. He said, make sure your kid's mature and ready for that because it's tough. And he said, I'm glad I waited till I was a little bit older.
Yes.
Rob Pancake says, which school has the best hospitality room?
Oh my God. Hands down this year was Palmetto Ridge. Coach Blaine Ison's, it is second to none. I mean, where else you gonna get? You get stone crab legs, you get freaking pork belly. I mean, and it wasn't just like you would walk into the room and there was like a new dish of food that you can go to. It was ridiculous.
So Ison is the man when it comes to that.
What's that?
So Ison is the man when it comes to hospitality.
Oh, it's ridiculous. His hospitality room is the best. I mean, the only other really good hospitality, like we've got some great ones in the state, but to compare to like what Blaine's is, like we go up to Jazztown Duels and they throw one hell of a hospitality room. And Blaine is just like blew that one out of the water. And I thought that one was one of the best. So.
That's awesome. I don't even know where we were. Okay. Duels or IBTs?
Depends on the level of your kids. If you've got a really rookie team, I'd say more duels so they can get that mat time in. It don't matter if we're running 5 duels, that kid's going 0-5 or 1-4. But we got more of a seasoned team. I want to get more IBTs in so they get to understand the tournament mindset that you better win to move on. That's so. But I'll always sit there and add duels. So I'll do some years it's 70% IBT, 30% duels, and then some years it's going to be maybe 60% dual, 40% IBT. It just depends on what I have.
All right, Chulas or El Ranchito?
Oh no, it's Pueblo. It was
I was gonna put Pueblos too.
Yes, and I was just there on a Monday.
Sorry, well, there's no rules to this game, so we can add Pueblos.
Hey, but if you're ever in town and you go there, you get their shrimp ceviche. It's the best.
Oh man! All right, screwed that up too. Okay. Do you recommend gymnastics or yoga for the wrestlers?
Oh, I recommend both. I mean, but gymnastics definitely. I mean, my niece is in gymnastics. My middle niece, and her core strength is like second to none. Like I have 3 nieces, and the other two are in dance. But what Gabby does in gymnastics, it's ridiculous. All the tumbles, everything like that. I could put her on a rope and she'll climb that rope 40 feet in the air without her legs, and I got most guys that can't do it. So definitely if a parent was like, what should I get my child into? Definitely be gymnastics. Now for us old wrestling coaches, we need yoga because because I the kids laugh at me like they're warming up and I'm stretching and I'm like I'm 40 now. I'm like a diesel motor. I can get going. It just takes a while and I got to make sure this body's stretched out. All right.
Yeah, that's, I'm out of shape and whatever, right? But I'll get up in the morning, I'll be like limping and hurting, and they're like, "Dad, let's go play tennis." I'm like, "Ugh, 1 second, the oil hasn't kicked in yet, right?" I'm like, I gotta get the oil to kick in first. Hold on. Um, let's see, let's see. Oh, Mark De Augustine. I find that yoga teaches you how to breathe through a fight. Gymnastics, definitely core strength all day long.
I didn't even think about the breathing aspect of yoga. I was just thinking stretching, but yeah, that makes it, that's right.
All right, I hope I didn't screw these up too. I know you're going to pick the one that I didn't pick. There was 3 of these. I picked these 2. You're going to go, no, I wanted that one over there. But let's see. Marker 48 or Tidal Brewing?
Oh, Marker 48.
Ah, good. I got a good one in.
Yeah, Marker 48. I like their beers a lot better. The Red Right Return is really good.
Nice. All right, and this one, again for kids that are doing off-season wrestling, do you recommend freestyle or Greco?
God, I love them both. I mean, but if you're gonna have to pick one or two, I'd pick freestyle. And the biggest reason with freestyle is it helped. Like I had a kid that was like, I hate freestyle. And yeah, if you don't shoot all the way through and run your feet and run them down, you're gonna get scored on. So you became an offensive person, and then all of a sudden they're scoring big time off of your offense because you're finishing on your knees, you're finishing with your head down. You need to blast through your shots. So I think it's definitely beneficial on the freestyle circuit.
Nice. And Rob Pancake said, do you know a good chiropractor?
Yes, I actually do. My twin brother's a great chiropractor. He takes care of my team, all the team here. Pretty much most of the teams in the state of Florida know who he is, and they're coming, and all the officials do. So you'll be at the state tournament, and there's my brother with 20 referees putting them in side posture and adjusting their necks in the chair. It's hilarious.
Well, good. So he get a shout out to your brother. Hey, man, this has been really awesome, man. I'm so happy I finally got an opportunity to have you on, and it's been a good time, man. Keep kicking life's ass, like I say, and God bless you for being a Marine. And my dad was a Marine, my grandpa was a Marine, so some really good shit there. And then Doug Housel just came on. Springstead Wrestling has produced so many solid young men on and off the mats. Keep it going, Mike, and thanks for all your time. Give a shout out to your brother for all of his care.
Yep, he's a good dude. Doug wrestled too back in the day. He was one of the earlier on wrestlers.
Nice, man. Well, listen, keep doing what you do, and I appreciate you coming on. And you're always welcome. You know how to get a hold of me. Let's do it anytime.
Appreciate it. Thank you, and we'll definitely get back on there with you.
Yes, sir. And send your friends.
You got it. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.